Is 2024 going to be the year of the dumb phone? I think this is actually going to be a breakout year for the dumb phone. A lot of people are talking about that 2024 is going to be the year of the Linux desktop. I think that's also true. I think both are actually coming true at the same time. Let me break down why I think this is the case and potentially even try to convince you why you should consider a dumb phone. So, let me start with a little bit about my background. When I was a kid, I was fortunate enough to have a mom who brought me to the library. When I was, younger, like 9, 10, we would go every week, pick up books, and I would read often, maybe even a book a day. For extended periods of my life. Didn't have a TV as well, which was helpful, and I didn't even get a TV until I was around 30 years old. So what did I do when I was an adult? A lot of times, what I would do for entertainment was I tried to pick things that were different than what everybody else was doing. It was really common to come home, turn on the TV, and watch, let's say, a reality show like Jerry Springer, and it was terrible because you were forced to watch what was on the channel. And that's one of the downsides of TV. So if you're ambitious and you're trying to do things with your life, a TV is essentially like a waste of time and sucking some of your energy out. So that's why I avoided it. And I remember when I was working at Caltech, I would walk to the local cinema where there were foreign films, and I would try to pick, let's say a French movie, or Italian movie, German movie, try to pick these different languages so that I would understand different cultures. And so I was, in a way, watching a form of media, but it was more like the media of today, where you can pick a particular thing and you can pick what time you want to watch it. And so I think that's an interesting way to consider where we're at now, which is that we accidentally slid into what is the equivalent of having a television in our pocket. So I think if you look at what's going on with a smartphone, it's an Android device or an iOS device. If you look at the benefits, what I've heard really boils down to essentially only two or three different things you even need from a smartphone. So, to be able to do touchless pay is pretty convenient. The other one is navigation. I think those are probably the two bigger ones. There are some edge cases as well. Like, for example, if you wanted to use like a mobile taxi like Uber or Lyft, of course, the taxis do exist in other places. If you live somewhere where there's public transportation, you don't necessarily need that. So that's more of like an edge case. And it's possible that there might be some kind of an app or two-factor authentication that requires you to have a smartphone. But if you really think about it, you can live your life without it. And so that's why what I think is going to happen is that people are going to start thinking through the fact that, and let's take Apple, for example, every year we've been convinced that we're supposed to spend $2,000 to upgrade so that we get a TV in our pocket. Now, if you said this to somebody in, let's say, I don't know, 1984, which is kind of a play on words here with Apple, in 1984, you said, look, we're going to build a TV that lets you watch Jerry Springer for hours every single day, and it's going to be shrunk down. It's going to fit in your pocket. And not only is that TV going to be something you can consume, you can participate, right? So you can be on, let's say, Facebook, and you can be part of the Jerry Springer show itself. I think most people would be horrified, but I think that's unfortunately where we're at. And if you take a look at what a smartphone is actually doing for you, really the benefits, some of them are pretty good. Again, like navigation is a really good benefit, or touchless pay, but do they actually outweigh the negative? And so the negative would be spending several hours per day reading the news, scrolling through different things. And I think if we're able to look at this critically, this might be when people start to go, you know what? Why do I want to spend $2,000 per year to have a TV in my pocket? Is there another way to get the same benefits, but not have to actually waste all those hours per day? So if you have lots of things you're working on, let's say you're a student, you're a business owner, you're an artist, you're working on lots of different things. You're a creator, right? You're not a consumer. So as a creator, why would you be using something that's essentially like a vampire? Like, it's sucking away the time that you have to actually create things versus consume things. So if you are going to think about this is one of the ways I think is a very good way to think about it. Now, the question then is like, well, what do you do? So one of the ways that you could actually participate in the dumb phone revolution is to go to Reddit, for example, look up dumb phones. There's a bunch of threads on it. Go to some other forum, do a little bit of research, and there is actually, believe it or not, quite a few new dumb phone products. There's Sunbeam is one of the dumb phones. There's like the Light phone. There's a bunch of different brands here that are really focused on giving you a phone that just does phone and texting and maybe like a couple other features like Waze, for example. Now, the benefits of this is that, let's say you were spending 2 hours a day or 3 hours a day scrolling the news or scrolling some kind of social media feed. Just imagine what, if you're again a creator, what you could do with that time. So how much is your time worth? Is it worth $100 an hour? Is it worth $500 an hour? Is it worth $2,000 an hour? You're basically giving yourself that time back. And so I think this is one of the ways to think about it is if you are actually creating things and there's a bunch of ambition you have with your life, a smartphone actually may be an anti-pattern to consider. Now, that's even beyond the cost, right? Is being convinced every year by marketing people that you have to buy the latest upgrade. Now, that's one of the reasons why I think the dumb phone revolution is potentially going to happen right now. The second one is that if you think about what's happening with Apple and OpenAI and how really a company that's got a very poor reputation for privacy and a really good track record of doing things that many people feel is like the gray area of ethics, like scraping YouTube and taking all the content for training or scraping New York Times. If they're partnering with Apple, it's potentially something that a creator should also think about is, why would I want to participate in an ecosystem where we've already shown that this company doesn't respect creators? Why am I paying for someone to disrespect me as well? So I think these are two of the big factors for people to think about in the dumb phone revolution is A, can I get more time back? B, was I essentially traded a false solution, right? There's some marginal benefits, navigation, being able to do touchless payments, but what did I get for this? Let's say 95% of people, you're now addicted to what is the equivalent of the Jerry Springer show, but it's in your pocket. That trade-off isn't something I want long term. I want to take my life back. And then, the C, which is, why do I want to be part of an ecosystem from anybody that's like an ad-based or, like a vampire-based ecosystem, whether it's Google or whether it's Apple. So thought I would share some of the ideas. I'll probably write this up in detail about some of the things I'm thinking about. Now, again, I'm not against the technology by any means. In fact, I am on the cutting edge of technology, but I think the ways that we can think about the smartphone is I think effectively it was an interesting hypothesis that's failed, and that I think more and more people are going to go, you know what, I actually want to reduce. And I'll kind of close with an analogy I've had in my career, is that a lot of my career when I was, first starting at a company, especially if it was like a startup type company, there would be an initial prototype that was very bad, right? And so there could be, let's say, hundreds of thousands of lines of code. It didn't work correctly. In almost every situation, the original creators of that bad prototype would be very protective of the code. They say, oh, no, 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 I need this. No, we need this. White knuckle it, kind of, until finally they're forced to actually realize that, hey, we do have a problem. Often the solution was automation and continuous improvement, but also a big part of the solution was deleting code. And so I would say in some sense, a lot of my career in fixing things in companies was to delete, let's say, 90% of the code. So that's another way to think about this. Do we have an architectural problem with the smartphone where it feels like a good idea at the time to put this new device into our ecosystem, but if you really think about it, it's a bunch of really bad, buggy code that we should delete. And in fact, most people will likely be much happier in their life. So it's a big step, but something to think about. And I'd encourage you to just do a little bit of research on the dumb phone, and maybe you'll join me as well. All right, talk to you later.